man named Everett Rogers has created a model that has become extremely popular for predicting how an innovation, so in our case an IT innovation, gets diffused through an organization. Rogers' diffusion of innovation is been credited for controlling the way products are rolled out within an organization and how the product life cycle can be used as a way of understanding how IT products get rolled out. So we see here Rogers' very traditional diffusion curve. Many of us have seen this. It starts out with a new product is evaluated by innovators, and that represents about 2.5% of a population or a sample. The next group of people who adopt a technology would be the early adopters. Combining the innovators and early adopters gives us about 16%, and these are the folks that we typically target as we roll an information system out. So our controlled rollout starts out with these folks. The next two groups, the early and the late majority, comprise 68%, about 2/3 of our organization. While their characteristics tend to be pretty similar, we will target the early majority first with our product with information that came from the early rollout with the innovators and early adopters. We try to avoid as much as possible having product rollouts targeted at the last 16%, at the laggards. Those folks are most resistant to new technology and are probably not going to give the technology its fair shake. If we compare the diffusion of innovation curve with the product life cycle, we can see that the diffusion of innovation curve starts as the innovators see a product, but the product development curve actually starts before the innovators see it with the development. As we introduce the product and then watch the product grow and then mature, we can see how the maturity lines up with both the early and late majority, and those are pretty key times for the rollout of our system. Is we make sure that most of the bugs are out, that the process kind of improvements have been shaken through, and we understand that by the time the late majority starts seeing our products, they're pretty much pretty solid. At the point the laggards, the last 16% of our organization sees the product, it's pretty much saturated throughout the organization, and then we put the decline up there as a way of talking about how all products and information systems included go through a decline. Usually this has to do with the fact that the product has been well integrated into the culture of the organization. We might add different versions of our system to the system. So as we take a look at the typical product life cycle, as we make additions to the product, as we add different versions or different features to the software, we see that we create little bitty mini product life cycles and extend the life of the product. So as we start versioning our software, we see that the product life cycle has now extended past Rogers' innovation characteristics. So what does this mean? Well, it doesn't necessarily mean that we start over with the innovators, because what we know about IT products is, as long as the revision isn't a substantial revision, then the way it's diffused starts more or less with in the majority, and we roll out the small revisions. If the revision is a substantially different version, then we start all the way over. One of the things that happens as a person starts adopting a technology is they go through 6 steps in their decision to adopt a technology. They become aware of it, they gain knowledge of it, they evaluate it, they try it out, they make a conscious decision to adopt it, and then they confirm or evaluate their adoption. These 6 very distinct steps happen for everybody that's adopting a new technology, whether it's a new version of SAP or your iPhone. Now what happens as a result of each one of these steps is communication. In other words, for each of the blue arrows, every step that happens, you're going to tell somebody about your experience. You may do it directly or indirectly. So as we see it with this picture, what happens to person 1, who's represented by the red arrow, is every time she tries something out, every time she gains knowledge or evaluates or tries or adopts or confirms, she communicates to someone else who might be at the awareness stage or the knowledge stage or the evaluation stage, the trial stage, adoption stage, or confirmation stage of that product. In other words, one person's adoption experience affects someone else's. And in fact, it may affect it in a huge number of ways. So if we just look at these 2 people, how perhaps an early adopter is affecting a late majority person's decision, there's a lot of communication. We can see how absolutely critical it is for us to get our rollouts right. We target the innovators and the early adopters specifically with our rollout. Otherwise, we lose control of the communication process, and the success of our IT implementation may be negatively impacted.